Terminate.
Capes and cloaks. They are a very unique way of keeping yourself protected from the elements. And with the advent of sweatshirts and Gore-Tex and actual rain weather gear, cloaks have fallen out of style. But for those of us who grew up watching Lord of the Rings, seeing the Hobbits, seeing Faramir and Boromir, Aragorn, Legolas, all of those guys who wore cloaks, it's a way of life. I have always loved cloaks, and for the longest time, it was really hard to find one of good quality. That is until Knightweave came along. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not an advertisement for Knightweave. They don't know I'm making this video. This is not sponsored, although it could be. I'm making this video because I finally got myself a Knightweave cloak, like I've always wanted, and I love it. It is soft, it is warm, it is just a great traveling sort of cloak, and using it in a couple of videos, I started realizing that it blocks a lot of the thermal energy I pick up on my search and rescue drones. So I got to thinking, why not test out just how well we can hide from modern drones using outdated weatherproof technology? Let's find out. Before we get to the drone tests, let's talk a little bit about the cloak itself and how it fits. It has this faux fur inside of it that provides a very soft and very warm insulative layer, and on the outside it has a nice thinnish sort of fabric layer. From everything I've read and everything they've advertised, this is not waterproof. It's not meant for a long journey to Gondor or Rohan or Hobbiton. It's meant mostly as a kind of fashion accessory and as a blanket of sorts. On these cold nights up here where I'm staying, I've been using this as a blanket every single night. It envelops you perfectly, keeps you nice and warm. I love it for just that purpose. But I'm one of those guys that likes to take objects way past their purpose. That's one of the biggest reasons why we're doing this test. So, like I said, it's not rated for any sort of wet weather, any sort of really bad weather, but for dry, cold like this, it's working perfect. I went out and set up a time lapse last night, and it was about 16 degrees Fahrenheit, and I was just in my shorts and flip-flops and this, and I kept it around myself, and I stayed incredibly warm, except for my toes, but that's fine. This is the medium-sized cloak, and I am, as a 6 foot, 220 something pound man, it fits me pretty well. You can see it hangs down pretty much all the way to my boots, and it does scrape the ground a little bit. I ordered a large one of these in a different color, and it, I don't know who they were expecting it to be larger than me, because I generally wear an extra large size shirt, and figured a large would fit me, and no, it was massive. Just about worked as a blanket on my California king-size bed back home. So the medium size fits me perfectly if you're 6 foot. And this is the Ranger Green color, which is probably one of their most popular. They have a bunch of different colors that you can have if you're going for more of a more fantasy, more magical, more arcane style of cloak. They have a bunch of different colors. They including have all the colors of the houses of Hogwarts, if you're into that sort of thing. I personally went with kind of OD Ranger Green because that just kind of sums up my style in a nutshell. To hold the cloak onto you, you come with 2 fasteners right here that are essentially just really good string and leather patches right there. And then all you have to do to take it off is spin these little clasps. And boom, comes right off. You can bunch it up as you need. You can see it's got the Knightweave logo right there, and this right here shows that it is 100% polyester and dry clean is recommended. Although if you do need to wash it, it does say machine wash cold and hang dry, or do not bleach, do not iron. Now, the large green one I got actually came with a brooch, the sort of brooch that the elven leaf brooch from Lord of the Rings, and I should have brought it. One of the only real complaints I have about this cloak is the fact that the clasps are pretty tight around my throat, especially when I throw it back over my shoulders. When I've got it down like this, it's pretty good, but the moment I want to throw it back to have some more use of my arms so I can do YouTuber hand wavings, it does get a little tight on the throat. I think that's just the kind of nature of the beast when it comes to the cloak. I don't really know how they would go about fixing it. I think if I had the brooch so that I could have these 2 clasps be clipped down here a little bit more, I think that would take a lot of that kind of neck pain out. But it's still, can't complain about it when you get to walk around a snowy vista looking like this. One of the other big reasons I got the green is because I feel like it's going to blend in to forests like this, which is what cloaks are made for, better than anything else. So that's why I'm out here. I've got my multicam combat pants on, I've got my cloak, and I am out here in the woods of Lassen County. And I say we get the drone into here. See how well this can protect us against the red glowing eyes of Northwind Ariel, or Sauron. Alright, so first things first, before we put on the cloak, I wanted to give a good idea of how I look, just kind of wearing my mostly normal clothes, jacket and jeans and hat out here against a backdrop of the snow. So I've got the Mavic 3T up there, mounted on top of my car, and just not even flying it at first, just gonna turn it on and do some spins and show you how I look like, just like this, to give a good baseline. So, first things first, right now we're filming in white hot, and you can see, especially my skin shows up really well. Switch over to black hot. Black hot, even better. This is kind of one of the reasons why I like black hot temperatures more in the winter time. It's just a lot more contrast between the heat and the cold. Black just kind of grabs your eyes a little bit better. Let's check out tint. Tint, even better. You can see there's not a shred of heat anywhere behind me, but I glow like the sun. Like, I glow like I've got a sunburn. I'm so red right now. And you can see heat's already starting to bleed through my jacket. So let's do Arctic. That actually is the best use case of Arctic I've ever seen. What do you know? Arctic works well in the wintertime in the snow. Who would have guessed? Anyways. Works quite well. Let's flip over to the wide view spectrum. Alright, again, Arctic. I show up quite well. White hot. Pretty good. Black hot. And tint. You can see a lot of heat is starting to come through right here because that's where my massive pectoral muscles are really touching the clothing. So it's starting to bleed a lot of body heat through there. And God, I can feel me losing heat right there. Let's check it out with the cloak. All right, starting off with white hot, and you can see already, really all you could see of me is where the cloak isn't. Turn around, and yeah, you can see right where it's on my shoulders, but it still blocks a fair amount of that heat. Flip over to black hot. Still blocking a fair amount. Let's check out tint. Yep, you see my body heat. See if you can see my breath. No, we'll try it on the skinnier view. Flip over, and there's a little bit of heat on my shoulders, but there's a good chance that's from the obscured sun coming through, and you can also see the tint on the rocks back there. Let's check out Arctic. Yep, I glow nice and pink. And there we go, back's showing off a little bit. Really quickly, gonna run through the skinny view. Just spinning in circles. Now I'm a little dizzy. Whew. All right, now let's get into the tests themselves. So we're gonna start off by taking the drone up, and we're gonna really quickly go through how it looks through on the main camera, the wide view camera, to see how well the camouflage itself holds up against just any run-of-the-mill drone. And then we're gonna move on to the thermals. All right, got the drone in the air. Similar to all of our thermal breakdowns, I'm just gonna be going out here and filming all the footage today, and then afterwards, when I'm editing all these videos, that's when we'll be doing our analysis and seeing how well we can find us on this photo. For just a little more context, my car said it was about 33 degrees when I was driving up here, and it is very windy, very cold, and my plan is to basically go over here right up the side of this hill where there's a large amount of brush coverage as well. Basically give a chance for the cloak to kind of blend in a little bit more, because if I'm out here on a snowy road, yeah, you're gonna find me. So I'm gonna be going off here just a little bit off the road because I don't want to get too far away from it because Sasquatch. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna let Editor Tim explain to you what all the different tests I'm doing are, because it'll just be easier that way.
Right off the bat, as I enter from the left-hand bottom side of the screen, you can see that the pale green of the cloak works perfectly for this scenario, just as I hoped it would. The dim filtered light from the sun, combined with the shadows and snowy background, makes the cloak blend in perfectly. If I stop moving for a bit, it almost becomes pretty hard to see me. I would look like a rock, a shrub, or other piece of debris if you were flying over just doing a quick cursory search. It's really only when I'm moving that I'm able to be seen, which is something to keep in mind on all of your search and rescue scenarios if you're looking for someone who is walking or staying still. When we swap over to the thermal camera, you can see that when I'm underneath some bushes, I blend in fairly well. And once I step out, you can see the reoccurring theme that most of the heat that you could pick up on an infrared camera comes from the shoulders and head area on clothes such as this, which is where the clothing touches a good portion of the body and a lot of that thermal energy bleeds through. This view right here is still the thermal imaging camera, but is a screen recording of exactly what I'm seeing on my drone controller. Pretty much the exact same clip overlaid. And you can see that I've drawn a box around the entire area that will show me both the coldest and hottest portion of whatever is inside the box. A very useful tool. And you can see the hot spot is following me around, meaning that the drone is picking me up completely autonomously. Upon ascending to 200 feet, it becomes significantly more difficult to spot me. Not just because I'm not moving in this video, but because the pale greens and the shadows blend in completely perfectly with my surroundings. If you haven't seen me yet, here I am. The thermal does help quite a bit, because you can see by looking at the exact same spot that I glow pretty brightly. However, there is still a lot of thermal scatter on all of the rocks and certain points in the whole map that makes it so I can still blend in fairly well, except for something like Arctic. And then we have the screen capture right here, where you can see as I swap between the different modes, even the autonomous sensor has a hard time picking out exactly which spot is the hottest, me or some random rock laying in the middle of the field. I found that to be very interesting. Bumping up to 300 feet, you can see that I have become pretty much undetectable, except for the fact that I'm moving around. The swaying of the cloak definitely draws your eye to the movement, but once I start getting closer to the trees, it blends in completely perfectly. I go so far as to lose contact with myself for a little bit until I throw on the thermal camera. Yes, you could probably consider it cheating, the fact that I'm moving around and under trees, but you can still spot me as I walk around the other side. The one big thing I really want to call your attention to more than anything is the fact of how I give off the exact same thermal signature as all of those rocks over there. And those rocks have definitely not been heated by any sort of ground heat or fire or anything else. That's just their residual heat from the diffuse rays through the sun. Something very important to keep in mind whether you're searching for someone or trying to remain hidden. At 400 feet, unless I am actively moving, I become almost completely invisible in this landscape. I feel as though the only reason you're able to pick me up at all is due to the stark contrast between my cloak and the snow behind it. If this was in a brightly lit day with a lot more shadows and the ground was darker hues of green and brown, I think I would blend into this backdrop 100%. And even the wide or zoom camera would have a very hard time of finding me. When I stand still, even when I'm pretty much out in the open, I become almost completely invisible to the wide view camera on the drone. If you zoom in, you can have a pretty good shot at finding me, but you'd really have to know exactly what you're looking for. The thermal definitely helps, especially, again, when you're moving, but you can still compare my heat signature to all of the ambient heat signatures around me. If you have a fair amount of rocks or anything that could soak up even the smallest bit of thermal energy around you, I feel as though this cloak, purely by obscuring your arms and hands, would really help blur your heat signature. The thermal scanning box did pick me up fairly easy, but I feel like that was mostly due to the fact I was in an area that had a lot less thermal scatter. Even still, it had a really hard time picking out and differentiating between me and some random rock in the middle of the field. For my last manual mode flight, I wanted to take a kind of side view look. This would be the sort of angle you would use to fly and navigate towards a target and scan to see if you see any movement along the side of a hill. There's different benefits to top-down view versus side view, and I wanted to kind of show this one off as well. I again show up pretty stark against the snow, but when I start moving in between the trees and bushes, it becomes pretty hard to track me. I again reiterate that if there wasn't snow here, I think this cloak would blend in purely based on the color of it. The thermal camera tells the same story. When I'm sitting still, I'm completely camouflaged, and it's really only when I'm moving that I'm able to be picked up at all. If my bare arms and face were showing, I would glow like a beacon, and instead, I blend right in.
Now, I really want to try something. I want to fly a mapping mission, like flying an ortho mosaic, take all of those photos, and I want to fly it in normal view and infrared as well, and then I want to run all of those image sets through the automated drone image analysis tool to see if they can find me. Now for this test, I'm going to go out and lay down into snow and let it fly its entire mission while I'm covered up to simulate someone who's out here wearing one of these and has essentially laid down, trying to stay warm, survive a snowstorm. So I'm going to be in one spot. I'm going to fly probably about an acre's worth of mapping mission or so, and then we're going to see how well that turns out. All right, let's get to it. taking a GoPro with me on this one because I have a feeling I'm gonna be laying in the snow for a while. I decided to set the camera to fly in oblique mission, which means it's gonna fly over facing 90 degrees down, and then it's gonna fly all four corners at about 45 degrees. That'll help us get a nice 3D render of this whole scene up here as well, and it'll provide a bunch of different angles for us to tell just how well the cloak protects me. Now, there's this nice little tree area over here. I think that's what I'm gonna go sit right in the middle of because it's just a nice, cool little area. Let's see if the fairies take me away. Yeah, this whole area right here I think is gonna be perfect. All right, let's get nice and comfy in here. Grab my rifle to defend me from the fairies. Sam Squatch, whoever wants to come for me. Here we go, start.
Moving to start point.
All right. Let's grab the GoPro and get down here. So as the drone flies over and takes a bunch of photos and stuff right now, and we just have a moment to chat, I think this would be a great time to throw in the fact that you should really like and subscribe to this channel. How many other YouTubers come out here and wander around in the snow for your entertainment and scientific purposes to test a viral TikTok craze of this cloak, apparently, or it's just their marketing, I don't know. But how many other people are going to take this cloak and come out here with a thermal drone and lay into snow and wander around into snow on New Year's Eve for your entertainment? I think that's worthy of a like and a subscribe. What do you guys think? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Arrived at start point.
I can't see how well protected my legs are, but that's fine. You know what's going to be really interesting is once we finish this mission, if we can create a 3D model of this whole mountainside right now and see if we can 3D model me kind of in it. That's going to be something for future Tim to deal with. All right, I think now I need to switch it over to the infrared. Now we're going to do the same thing, but in infrared. And start.
Moving to start point.
Now I've really got to make sure that I have the GoPro in here because it'll pick up on the GoPro heat really easy. This would be terrifying if I knew it was actually looking for me with bad intent. And my best option was to just lay down in the middle of the field in my cloak and hope I blended in with the shrubbery. Gonna be very interested to see how well that turned out. But we have to wait till I get home from vacation to start going through all the footage. And just like that, it's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new year. Happy 2025, everyone. We're back here in the studio and we're going to use what I like to sometimes call, definitely didn't make it up about 15 seconds ago, the big three SAR programs that I use for drone search and rescue, which is Nova, WebODM, and the Automated Drone Image Analysis tool. We're going to take a look using all three of those and just kind of see how well that mapping mission we flew turned out and see what information we can glean from it and see if this beautiful, luxurious, warm, comfy cloak that I'm still wearing because it's freezing in my house because I haven't built a fire in a couple days. We're going to see what information we can glean from these mapping missions and see how well this cloak protects me from them. Let's check it out. Okay, so first things first, we're going to go ahead and start a new project on WebODM. Knightweave. Create project. Select our images. Alright, DSM, DTM, we don't want that. We want 3D model for this specifically. We're going to use this one for the 3D modeling, we're going to use Nova for the mapping, and we're going to use the ADIAT for all of the searching. 3D model, let's go. Because WebODM processes on your PC, which means it's going to use all of your own hardware to create the orthomosaic 3D model, whatever you're looking for. We're going to also use one of my favorite programs for search and rescue, Nova, which is slightly more expensive, but not all that much. They're still a freaking great deal. You have to check them out. But we're going to go ahead and upload all these photos to Nova as well. So we'll pop right over here, start a new project. Knightweave. What a fun word to say. And we'll start by creating an orthomosaic image.
Come back over here to our 29 photos. Pop them in. There we go. And you can see all these different lines. They show the different views from the camera. And we've got a pretty great overlapping signature right here, which should give us a very high quality orthomosaic image. So let's go ahead and hit upload these files. And while we do that, we'll go over to our ADIAT folder. So when we're looking for different colors, that's one of the cool things about us blending in with this nice palish Ranger green is it's gonna blend in with all of the other colors, all of the trees, all of the shrub bushes and everything there. So if we even try and get close, I have a feeling we're going to max out our search results really, really quick. So our color range, see, that's pretty close. Let's see if it picks us out. Yeah, see, I knew that was going to happen. So in the one of the very first photos, the area of limit has already exceeded. That means, yeah, areas of interest identified. That means this program is being completely overwhelmed with the amount of green that it's finding, and there really shouldn't be any way of searching. We'll still look and see. We'll look at the results. We're doing science. That's okay. We're expecting some false positives. We're expecting a lot of false positives. All right, so the ADIAT has pulled out its first results, and what do you know? It found that the colors we were looking for in every single image out of 29, and it took nearly 200 seconds in order to process. That is astronomical. That means it has found way too many results to provide anything. Let's go through them and see. Okay, it took me a second. Yeah, it's marking this entire photo. It found one little thing off here to the edge, and then the rest it's like, hey, this entire photo is what you're looking for. I have a feeling every single photo is going to be the same. So let's try out Anomaly. This means it's going to look through all of these photos, it's going to look for stuff that it thinks shouldn't belong there. Let's give that a test. I really don't think it's going to work. Fight in all 29 photos. I could have told you that. It went a lot faster this time though, because, yeah. But let's see what those results are. And see, this is one of the things I was very interested to see because it throws off all of these. You can see all of this information right here. It's picking out all sorts of different little anomalies and whatnot. Yeah, I think this is going to be just information overload as well. The ADIAT also has the ability to search for thermal signatures. So we're going to pull that up right now. Color map is going to be black hot. Let's start searching. 629 files. That's a lot to get through.
Does this make you feel better?
Sort of video. Okay, huh. Oh. And I thought we were onto something for a second, and nope. I'm like 95% sure that is us right there. And I was fully ready to go, wow, it found us. We're good to go. Fix your posture, kids. But then we get over here, and it's picking up the heat from all of these rocks, because I guarantee you there's not 4,500 of me out here. That is all. And even when it swirls, when it spins. That has to be us right there, but the fact that it shows us in the same image as that is interesting. I would say with this, the Knightweave Cloak has beaten the Automated Drone Image Analysis tool. Not a knock on ADIAT at all. Good job, Knightweave. 1 point to you. Okay, cool. Our 3D image is finished building. Let's open this up and see. Let's make this a textured model.
So this is one of the things I really love about Web ODM. If you haven't seen this before, is the ability to turn that entire mapping mission you saw we flew into a full-blown 3D render of the entire scene. And this, I think, could be very useful for crime scene recreation, for getting a good idea of what terrain would look like before you go into it, being able to show exactly where things are in relative to each other, and have not just a 2D map of a scene of an incident or something like that, having a full-blown 3D render of this entire mountaintop with all its elevation, all of its trees, the roads. It's so much useful information, and it took me 2 minutes to fly it and 12 minutes to process it on my own computer, and there's way better technology out there that can do this way faster and better. But this is just something that I know a lot of people don't know about, and meanwhile, it's one of my favorite little things. So let's see. We know where we're at. So that is us right there. Again, I'm very sure. I'm going to have to confirm it with the infrared. But you can see right there in that little thicket of trees, a black spot in that thicket of trees. There's nothing on this that really draws my eye to this. If I was sitting here looking through this mountain and going, hey, where's that Knightweave Cloak wearing son of a gun? Where are they? I would probably look at that and go, that looks to be a rock or some sort of water. It doesn't look like anything to me. It's like a sleeping bear or something. Yes, this is what the ground around here usually looks like when it's not covered with snow. So I think you're wearing this Knightweave Cloak and you're hiding in something like these trees in the sun and shadows, you ain't getting found. Alright, looks like the infrared map has finished. Let's take a look at it. So Nova software, if you're not aware, was originally built to map out wildfires. So their technology for finding hotspots is pretty dang good, and a lot of their software is phenomenal for search and rescue and firefighting and whatnot. So as I sit here and I look at all of the various hotspots on the map, and I look at all of this kind of mess over here, which I have a feeling is due to the drone turning and probably due to the oblique angles I added in. The fact I can't even see my little area over here, unless that's us right there or there, I don't know. There are plenty of things I did wrong, probably user error a little bit on my part, and I'm sure there's people out there who can do a lot better job at this than I can, but I'm seeing a lot of hot spots, and I'm not seeing us. So I'm going to have to give the win on this one again to Knightweave. Because more than anything, if there was body heat out here that was really showing through, it would show up on the map significantly. I may not be as good with a lot of these programs as a lot of other people out there who do this as a full-time job and not just as a volunteer, first responder, D-list YouTuber, wannabe drone boy, but I have worked with thermal cameras enough to know what someone's going to look like compared to all sorts of background noise if they're giving off a lot of body heat. You can go back and look at a bunch of my search and rescue videos. You can see just how much heat someone gives off in an area way less than this. So it's very fascinating for me to see just how well this cloak works. So I'm going to say, final verdict here before we turn it back to past Tim and close out the video. Is this a perfect defense against thermal imaging cameras? No, because that technology is probably still a ways off or not quite in civilian hands, and regardless, you're always going to have a little bit of thermal bleed through pretty much no matter what you're wearing, unless you're wearing some sort of power armor that is powered by cold fusion and is able to regulate its own temperature to the ambient temperature around it, which I don't see happening. For 99% of the time,
I would say this cloak right here is gonna keep you fairly safe from thermal imaging cameras. Now, if you decide to buy one of these and go into an IRL PvP server and the drone finds you and delivers you a present, don't come crying to me. But I would say outside of right on top of you, going back to our first foray into this whole video, when the drone was about 100 feet or so off the ground, that was the clearest sight picture I had on the drone of me, and everything after that, you could really make a good case to say this cloak, this Knightweave Cloak, will afford you a pretty significant amount of defense from a thermal imaging camera, in my personal opinion. One thing I do want to be very clear about, though, is the fact that I put these 3 programs through their paces. I was trying everything I could do to beat them. That is not a reflection on these 3 programs: WebODM, ADIAT, Nova. All 3 of them are fantastic pieces of software that if you are in drone search and rescue, drone modeling, drone firefighting at all, you should absolutely check them out. This is not a knock against them at all with this video. They're fantastic.
Well, hopefully future Tim's analysis proves what I already think, that this cloak does afford a fair amount of protection against thermal imaging cameras. I know I sure would trust it better than a lot of the other stuff we did on our last test, which you can check out on our channel. And I know just from feeling it out here, the edges of it are still quite cold compared to any other jacket I was wearing. So I'm gonna give it a thumbs up regardless, because it's super comfortable out here. I've been standing out here in this 33-degree weather for the past 2 hours filming this, and I'm very, very warm. I'd bring this with me on any sort of winter camping trip. If you want to get one of these, go ahead and check out the Knightweave store. Again, not sponsored, but if you did want to buy one, tell them Northwind Aerial sent you. Maybe we could figure out some way to collaborate on the future and maybe expand on this really cool garment. But for now, I'm gonna go over there and stand mysteriously on top of this mountain and stare off into the distance, pining for the days of old and pretending I'm a Gondorian ranger. So until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.